sure you guys have seen this. Well, let me talk about myself first. My name is Alex Huguet. I'm the lead modeler for ILM at Vancouver office. I just started there a while ago, but my last job was at Passion Pictures in London. And I'm going to talk about this last job that I did at Passion. This was this Nike commercial that we did. It was a fairly big campaign they did. It was a 5 minutes short animation, and the time was really tight. The time we had to do it was really tight. So it was a pretty hardcore and really intense sort of a project. I'm not sure you guys have seen it, as soccer is not so popular here maybe. Let me just play it for you, and then we can go through it a bit. And also, if there is a bit of time, I'll show you some of my personal work and the way I tend to model in ZBrush, and so we can have a look to different things. So yeah, that's the commercial here. I'm not sure we have audio on that.
Flawed, 76% probability of missing the target. Reckless, 50% chance of failure. And this is not an acceptable way to arrive at training. Even the greatest players of our time make mistakes. They take too many risks. After all, they're only human. But what if they weren't? I give you the future of football, our clones. Flawless decision-making, guaranteed results. It's what the people want. Football just changed forever.
Neymar laughed at the clones before the match, but now, he's down.
He looks concerned out there, doesn't he? I think the clones are really
coming off now. Wait, is that Ribery coming back on? Times are changing.
Football has changed. I'm not sure it's a good thing.
We'll see Ronaldo. The question now, is this the end of phenomenal football?
Basketball. Risk nothing with Perfect LeBron.
Before perfecting, football was a wild and unpredictable affair. I've changed that.
What do you think happened to the originals?
You mean what are they doing and where are they now? Who cares?
I am Zlatan! I'm Zlatan! Look, there's Zlatan! I was Zlatan. Whoa! Does the manager know about this?
Let me guess, same as last week?
You sure you don't want the perm?
Kidding me?
Get off me!
Who's there?
Get off, Zlatan! Hey, what happened?
Why are we all here?
To make a stand. To save football.
I like what you have done with the place.
The game that we love is dying. The clones, they're killing it. We must rise up and...
Sorry, let me just post...
We all want to destroy the clones, but they're unbeatable.
Zlatan agrees.
Nobody thinks they can be beaten. But you can do it. I'm up for it. I mean, all of you together. Remember what makes you great. You are not afraid to take risks. You play like it's just a game. They play like it's a job. You risk everything to win everything. There's no greater danger than playing it safe.
It's official. The originals are back and they're challenging the clones to a sudden death, winner-take-all game. If they lose, they say they will quit the game forever. The question is, how will they beat the perfect clones?
What a stage for the biggest match on the planet. The world is watching. First goal wins, no second chance.
I'll take that.
It's too easy. That's better.
Clone that!
Thank you. So yeah, that was a very intense project. There were a few, not problems, but concerns with that. The first one is that it was a 5-minute long animation. Second is the time that we had to do that. That was really short. And then from the point of view of character modeling, that was a tough one because there were a lot of different layers, different filters of people saying and commenting about them. In this job, I was the character supervisor, so I had to work on the design of the characters. I had to supervise modeling, facial blend shapes, texture and shading, the hair. So it was a lot of characters that you've seen. And then, as I said, it was really challenging because those characters, they are real football players, and they had to be recognizable, but we had to bring like the best of them, and they had to look cool and nice and handsome and these sort of things. The problem is that we were doing that at Passion, and then we had the director of the commercial, John Sanders, a super nice guy. He was like the first filter, so whatever I will do, him and I will sit down and try and design it within ZBrush, just super quick, try to sketch different characters or different ideas for one same character. And whatever we thought it was good enough, that was sent to the agency. And then the agency, they had a bunch of other creatives deciding and commenting and sending this back and sending us feedback. But again, it wasn't just one guy, it was a lot of guys from the agency commenting. I like it shorter, I want it fatter, I want it slimmer. So it was a lot of different comments, and some of them, they didn't make much sense, and they were like different things totally far apart. So that was a tough one. After that, once the agency, they were happy enough and they felt confident enough, they were sending that to Nike. And then at Nike, I guess they had a bunch of other marketing people and creatives commenting on top of that. So that was, again, another filter that they were sending us back feedback, and that was, again, just difficult because the time we had to do this, again, it was super short. So once the guys at Nike were happy enough, then all of these renders, they were sent to the characters, the football players themselves. And they had the last word, right? So at the end of the day, it was just a lot of filters, a lot of people commenting on that. So for the football players to say, was that this guy? Oh yeah, that's cool enough, yeah, next one, you know. So it was a lot of hard work and, again, really short time. The way we did it was mainly in ZBrush. We worked for the character designs, we worked in ZBrush. We did one main topology that we reused for all of the characters. And basically, yeah, it just went one by one and started designing and trying things. And once I thought, the main approach was basically go into Google and put like Rooney and try to get pictures of Wayne Rooney and try to make him appealing and nice, which is, it can be challenging, right? So it was like that for all of the characters. I'll just sit with the director and start in ZBrush, just start sketching and start drawing, start painting things. And from that, he will take it and just do paint overs. The director will do like paint overs or try this, try that. We did a lot of designs. Unfortunately, I cannot show the discarded designs. I can just show because of Nike, they didn't approve that. So I can just show the final models. Before that, I'll show you, because on the film, we don't really appreciate much of the quality, but we put quite a lot of detail, both in texture, shading-wise, and ZBrush-wise. We did displacement map for these guys. We did some sort of face. We did the whole thing. We did the hair. If we have some close-ups on, there was quite a lot of detail going on, and we had to do something that it was realistic but stylized at the same time, and it was cartoon but not too cartoon, not too Incredibles, like these sort of things. So it was a very difficult project because, again, the style wasn't really well defined, and there were so many people commenting on top of that. But yeah, we did what we thought we had to do. We put lots of work and love on that, and it was overall really, really fun to be involved with. So yeah, that's the sort of quality we were aiming for. Then we had like these sort of renders as well. So each iteration of the model will go through all of these renders and all these lighting setups, and just to check that everything works as it's supposed to be working and that it looks good enough. Excuse me. And we were doing that for all of the characters, going through different iterations, and it was a titanic effort. Just because fashion is not like Disney or ILM or these big companies, it's just much smaller place. So our resources are much more limited. But still, it was pretty cool. I have more renders for this guy here. And again, we did the whole process for all of the guys. Same with Neymar. Different lighting setups, just to say that everything is working fine. And then we go to ZBrush now. I'll show you, this is the scientist, the sort of crazy scientist character that we did. It wasn't really based on anyone specific because it was just invented character. It doesn't, unlike the other characters where they were based in football players, this one was just based in a concept art. But they had still quite a lot of detail going into these guys. The hair is just like a proxy hair with it, just to know what it needs to look like. But quality-wise, I think it has a lot of detail, lots of things going on, things that maybe you don't appreciate on the commercial. But because it was the World Cup and it was night, they were doing some big prints for these guys and post them, I guess, everywhere. I haven't seen many, but it was in Canada when this was released. So in Canada, I don't think they are big fans of soccer anyway. But yeah, that's the sort of quality or the detail we're trying to put in these guys. That was the main topology we were using for all of them. It was a pretty simple, basic topology. The idea behind this is so we can reuse the topology and reuse as much as we can. We could even reuse the poor detail that we were having in one of the models, just transfer it to another model, and because topology-wise it was the same, it was just fairly easy to reuse. We could transfer blend shapes between characters. Again, just think that there was a 5 minutes long animation that we had to do, so the more we could reuse, the better. So we were transferring blend shapes and then cleaning them up. We were transferring textures like glossiness and speck and things like that. They are not super important. We were reusing them as well. So yeah, the idea behind that is just reuse as much as we can, and so we did one basic topology, and that was our main sort of topology. We use it for any character there. So again, there's another character, just Neymar, same topology, same sort of model, same sort of details going on. So for these guys, we generated displacement maps. We use this as the base rig model. We did blend shapes in Maya, and we were able to just transfer blend shapes again, super easy. And again, most of the detail, we could transfer it as well from character to character and then just go there and clean up whatever we didn't want or we didn't like, just clean it up. And that was the way to speed up things. I think that the best thing of this project is how ZBrush was involved with it, and it was from right at the beginning of the project, we were already starting to sculpt super quick characters just for the director to see and to have something to comment on, because we had like 9 or 10 main characters to do. So from the first day, we just sat there, we put one base geometry, we started sculpting and designing different characters, and from day one, we were just spitting characters, entirely done in ZBrush. Hair, the clothing we had at the time was all ZBrush. From there, it was just easy to do like paint overs on top of those renders from ZBrush and just send that to either the director or the agency. So I don't think we could have done this without the software, because again, it was just super quick to just go there and start changing things, right? And I guess you all are familiar with ZBrush, the way it works, but it's just super quick to start moving things around, changing the design and making new things.
I have a question for you, Alex, actually, right over here.
Yeah,
from
sure.
Twitter, from Raul. When you do the face sculpts, were the sculpts for the face freehand from photo reference, or did you use 3D scan data to build up a base mesh and then move on from there?
No, it was all based on reference pictures from internet, basically.
Great.
We had some pictures that the agency provided with, but basically it was all internet and pictures, and just trying to make it look good enough and that looks like the character, and just like trying to match it to some pictures. There wasn't scans involved in this time. So yeah, again, it's just super easy to go there and start changing, the look of your character. I don't know if you guys used ZBrush before, but it's super cool. So yeah, that was the main tool that we used from character design, and then for finalizing and adding all the detail was, again, ZBrush. That reminds me, I want to show you as well, going offside here, off the track, but how easy it is to change one thing into another one. That reminds me, I have a quick video here that was like 20 minutes modeling, super quick and dirty, just like one head. Excuse me. And just move forward on this. All right, there's nothing too, too crazy, too great. It's just standard sort of head, that everyone is doing online. It's everyone doing the same things. So how easy it was to take this guy here, and within ZBrush, just the same head, convert it to this guy here. It's just totally crazy. It was the same model, just start dynameshing and stretching things and creating different things, and I was like, oh, all right. And then just went crazy with it, and I got this model. I'll show you later on the model as well. And if you pay attention closely, you see the lips it's got even the same sort of lips and expression. It's just the same model, but completely changed and crazy, right? So that's why it's so fun to use it for these sort of things, because you can start doing something really boring and really, yeah, I've seen this like a million times. And from there, just go crazy and start pushing and pulling and create something different. It's like, oh, wow. And when you go to the beginning, you compare, it's like, oh, wow, it really went crazy from this to this guy here. But still, it's fun, and it's the same mesh, and it's a really good way of working, at least for me. It just lets you be super creative and change things on the fly super quick. So yeah, that's a quick example on how quick we're able to change things. So that's why we chose this approach. Start with one single mesh. Start with I think we started with Rooney or Neymar. And from there, just keep tweaking them, keep changing them, and trying things and sending things. And with it, again, like so many iterations for each character that it was super intense. But yeah, it was great fun. Had lots of detail going on the faces, on the hands, and we put lots of love in this project because, again, time was really tight, but it was a super fun project to do. So we couldn't have done it without ZBrush because, again, it was the main thing we were doing, just changing things and with one same topology, try to reuse as much. It was really intense. Let's see. Some more detail on the finishing of the final product. We had nice textures going on the hands and the clothing, like veins and things like that. The hands were super detailed as well. Even though you don't see it at the end of in the film, at the end of the day you don't see it, but the detail is there, and you know it is there, and it always gives, right? So with different versions for each character, we had like different clothing for the characters. So it looks like Socho Bob from the Simpsons.
There's a question here from the floor, Alex.
Yeah.
What did you use to model the clothing?
We use Marvelous Designer. It's this software for clothes simulation. At first, we did like some really quick proxies in ZBrush with Dynamesh. And then we just painted with polypaint, and then we just sent it to the cloth guys, and they were doing Marvelous Designer.
There's another one right here for you.
Yes.
In terms of renders, is there a reason why you used Arnold versus like V-Ray?
Not really. I guess the company they wanted to do, Passion was V-Ray based, and they still use it. But for this job, they thought, why don't we try Arnold? Because there's a lot of things going on, and I think it's a good chance to try it. So they went, okay, let's do it. And they just got some license for Arnold, and they rendered it with Arnold for Softimage. And also because I know that they had lots of geometry on the environment, on the favelas in Brazil, and all the people in the stadium, things like that. It was like a lot of polygons in there. So they thought, well, let's try in Arnold. I think that can work, so let's do it in Arnold. And yeah, they totally did it. Like, oh, wow. But yeah, normally they render in V-Ray, but for this case, they use Arnold. I'm not too sure they keep doing things in Arnold or not, because I'm not there anymore. But yeah, this was rendered in Arnold. Yeah.
Do you know what the main difference is between Arnold and V-Ray? Is Arnold just better for high poly intense scenes?
I don't know, to be honest. I use V-Ray a lot, and I'm really happy with it. I use Arnold not so much, but I like it a lot as well. And they both work really, really well. So I don't know why, but they both work well, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, that's Cristiano Ronaldo, for the ones who don't know. That was the toughest character we had to do. We went through a million iterations for this guy, from more realistic to more cartoon. When we were going too cartoon, it just looked too goofy. And they didn't like that. So that was the toughest character we had to do. At the end, they were happy with it, but again, that was really hard, this character. Oops, damn it.
There's another question right here for you, Alex.
Yeah.
Hey, I love the stuff that you guys do for, gorillas and all the stuff that you guys have been doing. But you mentioned you use Softimage for the animation?
Yeah, that's right.
It's going away now, so are you going to be doing animation in different packages now?
I believe they're going to switch to Maya. But again, I haven't been there in months now, so I'm not too sure when that was made public, I wasn't there anymore. So I believe they're going to switch to Maya, but I'm not too sure. So yeah, again, more of the characters, lots of clothing, lots of items, a lot of things to do. Super busy schedule. That was Zlatan. That was a fun character to do. Oops. So yeah, that was basically what the latest project I was involved with at Passion in London. I don't know if you have any more questions about these guys here. Again, that's just the main geometry, how it looked like. The amount of details we put on these guys was pretty high for what we were going to see, but still enjoyable to do.
I have a question here from the Twitter. I'm over here. So this is from Mido. How much time did you take to sculpt the Neymar character?
The first iteration we did on these guys was 1 day per character. That was the first iteration. Obviously, that looked not really good. But it was the first base we did, so we had something to comment on top of. So we did 1 day on the first iteration for all of the characters. And then from there, we took it and we kept refining. So as soon as we had comments on those guys, we just kept refining and refining and refining. I'm not too sure. We didn't have like 3 days per character, you know, it wasn't like that. Every time we had tweaks, we would just jump in there and do it and try to make it look better and better, and then next character, and then we will go back to the first character. And it was a refining process with all the characters sort of at the same time. We're like 3 or 4 at the same time going, and when those were quite okay, we kept going with different characters. Okay, apart from this, I wanted to I'm not sure if there is more questions about Nike. If not, I'll go into the next thing I wanted to show you. It's just how I use ZBrush for my own creations and my own renders and characters and things like that. Let's see. I did this really quick model that I'm going to show here. It's quite simple, not lots of details or anything like that, but I record the whole step, the whole videos on how I did it. Again, it's a fairly simple character, but so you guys can see how I start modeling and what's my main approach and the way I think when I do these characters. It's just like fairly simple. There's not lots of detail on this guy. Just you can still see the raw polygons in there. But still, what I like from using ZBrush, and especially doing these sort of quick sketches, is that you don't need lots of polygons. You can just focus on the main shapes, main forms. So yeah, I brought this character in. We can have a quick look to the videos I recorded. I did some quick time lapses for that. Something that I like to do now, I never did before, and recently I started working in this way, is just using mainly primitive geometries. So let's say I create a sphere. I place it here. And then I'm going to maybe duplicate this really quick and move it there, place it there, scale it. And then probably in my head, I already have an idea of what I want to do, right? But I'll start just working with fairly low resolution shapes and with mainly the move tool and the transpose tool, so I can just move it around and place it. I'll start working with that and try to refine and give some sort of gesture to the model. And then I may just try and use the Z spheres. So I can just place it, oops. Here, and from there generate some arms or something, and then just make a quick poly mesh of this. I can now delete this Z sphere and add what I just did here, and then start working on this and tweaking it again and just moving things around super quick with the move brush always. Just try to give some sort of intention for these guys, right? Then once I'm sort of happy with it, I will just go ahead and combine this, merge down, okay, and then I will dynamesh, is it? There you go. Dynamesh this thing, trying to keep it fairly low poly, and then from here I can just take it and keep working on this guy. Something that I like a lot from ZBrush as well is that I can just hide everything and just focus on this. And then I have a few hotkeys with my main tools that I use. I can just work like that. That is super cool. When I discovered that, I was like, oh man, I'm so happy. So yeah, it's really easy to, again, just start creating and try different things. So I did this. That is sort of my main approach now. So I did this character here that I just showed you. And then I brought as well another character that I did in the same way. None of them are really like final characters or anything. It's just ideas that I have in my head, and then I try to sketch them at night while watching TV and just doing something, you know, and oh, that's interesting. Or I do a lot of quick sketches, and some of them, they're terrible. I'm like, oh my God, that's rubbish. But the cool thing is that you can make them really quick in ZBrush, and wherever you think it has possibilities, you keep that aside. It's like, okay, one day I'll go back to that one, and then you end up with a bunch of things that they may be interesting, and then you just go there and have fun with those guys. So for each model that I think it has possibilities, I have a bunch of them that they're completely rubbish. And I just erase them and put them there, and I don't want to see them anymore. You know, it happens like that. So So yeah, this guy here is just some sort of crazy guy as well. But the way he did it is just the same sort of way. Just put one sphere. Sometimes I just work on a head. I'll do a head, and I think it has possibilities, and then I start attaching different geometries and just dynamesh it. Right? For this guy here, I just did a head super quickly. And then I thought, you know what, maybe I could do the whole body and take it further and refine it a bit more. So that's what I did. But sometimes I do just that, work on a head, and when I think that is interesting, I may do a body for it. Some cases, like in this other guy here, I did the whole thing like with a few spheres and tubes, and I just put it in there and start modeling. The process I do it is just super quick. I can show you. Some time lapses. I hope it's not going to be too boring for you guys. If it is, just shout at me and throw things at me. I'll change it and put something else. So basically, that's what I do. Is just like a couple of spheres, put them there, and whenever I can, just weld them together with Dynamesh. And I try to keep it fairly low poly all the time, so I can just go ahead and I don't overload the computer. I don't have polygons enough to get lost in detailing, which is a very common thing that I see online. There's a lot of awesome people doing great things, and there's a lot of people getting into this mistake that the more detail, the better. Obviously, everyone likes detail, and it's good to put detail on your models, but just keep it as the latest thing. It's like the icing on the cake that you put at the end. If your base model is not good enough, no matter how much detail you may put onto that, it will never look good. And in fact, I'll show you after one image that I have. That is always interesting to see how much the detail brings to a model. I'll show you after once this is done. But yeah, basically that's the way I work, right? Simple geometries, try to keep it low. I have an idea on my head most of the time. Sometimes it's just totally freestyle. I just put sphere and let's see what happens. But most of the time I have an idea in my head of what I want to do. The case of that old guy that became this sort of crazy alien, that was just freestyling, and it went a bit too far, a bit crazy, but yeah, it's good. It's good to do that sometimes. Just let yourself go and see what happens. Something I try to do as well is not focus on one area most of the time. So I may work a bit on the head, and then I'm like, okay, let's try the torso now, and then try to bring the whole model at the same rhythm and at the same level all the time. So that at any point you can say, okay, you know what, I'm sort of done, and everything is at the same sort of level. So yeah, just refining arms now, go to the legs, see what happens with that, see what... The cool thing is that you can as well, something I use a lot is the layers in ZBrush. So it's basically the same concept as in Photoshop. You just paint something, and then you can just switch on and off the layer and see the changes you've done. So I can just, let's pause this for a second. I can just come here and create a new layer for this guy.
There's a question way back here, Alex, if you want. No, way over here.
Yeah.
Follow the iPad.
Hi, I was wondering, what was the challenge for you to create a likeness character like Cristiano Ronaldo or Neymar? Like, what are the challenges that you encounter on the way?
Well, the first challenge that we had is that it needed to be recognizable as that football player. We had like a few things that we had to have in mind. First is that, let me just play the video in the meantime. It needed to be recognizable as that football player. It needed to have quite a lot of detail because Nike wanted to see like properly developed characters. It had to be stylized in a way, and they had to be charming and handsome enough for the football players to say, okay, that's cool, I'm buying it, so yeah, let's go ahead, move ahead with that. If the football players weren't happy with them, then everything was to stop. So the ultimate goal is to please the football players. With that said, then we needed to make it like not realistic enough, but not cartoony enough. It was a very sort of thin lines that it was a difficult process. And again, we went through a lot of iterations for each player. Sometimes the character looked cool, but it didn't look like the football player. Sometimes looked like the football player a bit too much, and it was a bit creepy. So it has a lot of problems that we found along the way. And yeah, we just try to solve for each character. So yeah, I'm not sure that answers your question, but I hope it helps. So yeah, same thing, just holding the head to the torso, keep refining things, playing with the... Sometimes the proportions, they may be a bit too crazy, and you see this guy has got this big torso, and then these skinny legs and skinny arms, and then the head is sort of stuck in there. The idea, once the guy is finished, is that this sort of slightly Harry Potter-esque character, like, sort of servant, yes, master, So it was a bit this idea behind it. Still, I have to finish it. I don't have time. I'm super busy lately, but I always start something with an idea, and that's the main approach I'm using nowadays. I find it super quick, just because having different geometries for different parts of the body, I can just move them around and super quick and change proportions really quick. And whenever I'm happy with it, it's like, all right, let's just put it together and keep refining it. The time to do a character like this, it'll be a few hours, which is incredibly surprising, if you ask me. I used to work on CG, I've been working on this for a while now, and before ZBrush, obviously, to put a character like this, it will take ages. So now every time I think that maybe a character like this is one day's work, it's like a few hours work. It blows my mind because it's so quick to do things now, and so quick to try different things. It's not just molding this guy, it's molding this guy and maybe making variations of it and trying different things. And that's where the power of the software, to me, is what the power of the software is. It just lets you be so creative and try different iterations on different things really, really quick. And again, I couldn't do this before, right? So that's why I love using this sort of sculpting approach, and that's why this is so good. Let me just jump ahead with another quick video. Just same thing, keep refining. Each video, I have like 5 videos. Each video is like one session of modeling. Some of them, they were like 1 hour sessions, some of them were half an hour sessions. But overall, really quick and really, when I'm doing these sort of characters just for myself, what I like to do is just either sit, especially now that I got one of those small Cintiqs, super cool. I just sit there on the sofa, put a movie and watch something and start modeling, and just, sometimes I maybe for 20 minutes like watching the TV and I forget that I was sculpting. Sometimes just sculpting, I forget about the movie, and then when I look at it, I don't even know what I'm watching anymore. But it's a pretty, laid back and really good way to do it for me. It's just good fun. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do all the time, trying to refine the whole thing at the same level, as I said before. Something that I realized lately I'm not doing, and I think it's, since I got the Cintiq, it's the portable Cintiq, and it's fairly small. I don't have the place to put reference pictures for me anymore. So I'm just modeling and trying to do things from my head and not copying things, not copying anatomy and not copying things like that. To me, that's good and that's bad, because it's good because you really need to think about what you're doing. It's bad because when I check with pictures, it's like, oh my God, what did I do here? Oh, that's terrible. And then I need to go back and just try to fix it again. And but this is a different approach that I'm using now. And yeah, I found myself lately not using as much references as I used to do before. But I think it's just because of the Cintiq. It's too small for me to put like 1,000 pictures next to it. So that's the way I'm working lately. So yeah, and really standard sort of working. I'm guessing most of the people, they do that as well, just Dynamesh spheres, and it's a really quick approach. Let's say for the hands, I have a quick, not trick, but just the way I do them now is just jump into here. Once I block the palm of the hand, I'll generate some geometry, some cubes or something, and Dynamesh them as well, place them in position. Because before I used to do one by one, and now this way is just, I found it so much quicker to do. So it's just small little tips and tricks that I do when modeling. Just trying to find fingers there, and then what I'm gonna do is take that finger, copy it across, get rid of the old fingers, and just use this as a base for this character. I like to try and work always the hands, even though it's a low resolution sort of model, but try to give it already a bit of good shape. And I think hands and face are super important. Obviously, everyone knows that you talk with your face and you have your eyes that are super expressive, but I think the hands are really expressive as well. When people is talking, it just keeps moving the hands and they draw a lot of attention. I try always to spend a bit of time trying to work on those hands. This is just the face, how I keep refining the face. Normally, when I'm doing faces, I'm not gonna put the eyeballs straight away. I'll just do some sockets and place them there. And once I know already more or less what the character looks like, I may start refining things and adding eyeballs, adding things like that. But, okay, go ahead.
This guy's throwing out the other language. There's a question from Jesse Velasquez. You mentioned working in parts. How do you put all that back together?
I just use Dynamesh. I have like different subtools, move them, place them where I think they should be, and once I'm confident enough that the head with the torso is going to fit, I'll just Dynamesh it. I'll merge it together in one single subtool and then click on Dynamesh, and then it's done. You have everything welded as one single surface. And I'll do that with all the different parts. Quite simple, quite easy. So yeah, this stage is when maybe I will divide the geometry once and keep adding like secondary shapes and secondary forms. Again, not focusing on details because I just don't want to be in that place yet, just focusing on secondary forms. The way I normally work is obviously primary forms and gesture. Once I have that locked down, I'll go in and start adding secondary forms, like in this case. And once that's locked in, I'll maybe start working on more detail. And once that is done, if this is the production model for a movie or for whatever, then I'll have to jump in and really start detailing things. At ILM, for example, the details we do, they have like tons of details. It's crazy. But for these guys, obviously for my own personal stuff, I normally don't go that high just because it takes a lot of time to try to refine and sculpt all those wrinkles and folds and skin pores. So yeah, just trying to work on some eyes and deciding maybe their eyes are too small. Let's try making them bigger or smaller, or further apart or not. And just, I like the way it works because it's just so quick. You can just mask something really quick, move it and make it bigger. And okay, that looks better. Let's keep it like that. And I tend to put it in layers so I can just switch on and off. And you see that's like, okay, that looks better now. Let's keep it like that, you know. And just last video, just keep refining the hands. And then again, the cool thing is that it's so quick to just put ideas into 3D models. Again, this just takes 1 day of work maybe, and I think it's quite impressive. Not because of the model, but because of the time it takes to do it. It's just super quick. I'll show you now a couple of other characters I brought. I have this other character once this finished, where I went into a bit more of detail for this guy. Okay, at some point I wasn't happy with the leg. I started refining a bit more and adding maybe more definition onto that. But again, always I try to bring the whole thing at the same level and same pace. And sometimes when I'm sort of done, I look at things and like, oh, that's not really working. Let's try and fix it. Let's try something different. It's like you never stop, you know, trying different things. All right, that's the end of this video, and that is the end of this character. So yeah, that's the final sort of character. Again, just like quick sketch, but I think it's interesting to see how I approach this sort of from beginning to this sort of stage. Just again, some spheres, some geometry, move things around. I use the move. A lot of people ask me, do you use alphas? Do you use, what tools do you use? Do you use a lot of customized tools? I say, no, I just use move tool, standard brush, clay, build-up brush. And smooth. That's all I use, and transpose things. A couple of layers here and there, but it's super basic tools that you can use, and just with those, the possibilities are infinite, are endless. Okay, so this guy stays here. Let's check another guy. For this guy here, I sort of use the same approach as well. That's the head that I did first, and I thought, oh, you know what, let's add the body for this guy as well. It may have possibilities. So again, I just put some spheres, started trying things and thinking what sort of shapes could work with that. Just these sort of rounded shapes here. Let's try to make a sort of rounded sort of character. Sometimes it can be difficult because doing, like in this case, monsters or creatures like that, you always have the excuse that that doesn't look right, and you can always go, well, he's a monster, so who knows, right? It looks good to me. But it's difficult to make it look good and not having to use that excuse of because it's a monster is good enough. It's always, you can always refine it more and try different approaches and different things and different designs. And again, that's why I love it in ZBrush. It's just so quick to change things. So this guy was totally improvised as well. I didn't have anything drawn beforehand or anything like that. It was just me trying different things and different approaches.
Do you find yourself starting like this for most of your models, or do you have a certain base mesh for some place that you're always loading?
If it's something that I'm doing as a production sort of model, where I need to do this final character in 3 days, and it's going to be rigged and animated, I may have a sort of standard human base mesh. If it's something that I don't have a clue what I'm going to do, or it's just for my own personal fun, then I'll just throw in some geometries like that and start working from that. Earlier, I used a lot the Z spheres, and I was doing some Z spheres designs and from there sculpting. But lately, I find myself just throwing some Dynamesh balls and start from there.
We have a question from Twitter too here. From I'm not going to even try. Louis, you want to try that one? Sarax?
Sarsen Hamadov.
There, he's got it right on. Can you explain how you use anatomy in your work, Alex? And do you use anatomy references for sketching, or do you just go from memory?
I used to use a lot of references before, but again, lately I find myself, while I was in London, I did a couple of anatomy courses as well, and that really opened my mind. Before I used a lot of books and pictures, and I used to go online and browse for whatever, bodybuilders or whatever, which is just so clear what the muscles are. But then when I did these anatomy courses back in London, it really taught me to think in a different way and to try to know why the muscles, or how they connect with the bones, and how they react when you move your body, and what is connecting to what, and that really helped me to understand. So lately I don't depend so much on anatomy, but that doesn't mean that when I check with anatomy books, it's like, oh wow, that's a bit off what I did, so let me fix it. But yeah, my approach lately is less of it's more freestyle, and having that background in anatomy, and I know a bit more now than a few years ago. So I don't rely so much in references anymore for anatomy.
You got 10 minutes.
I think it's good to know your anatomy as well. You should know it, but so it doesn't get in the way. You should know your anatomy, and then you can just sculpt whatever you want. And if it's anatomy based, then you know your thing. You have the knowledge, but it shouldn't be like the final goal. You should just be able to create whatever, and anatomy shouldn't get in the way. I'll just quickly let me show what I was saying about the hands before. There you go. So yeah, at some point I've noticed that I will always at some point just jump into the hands of the characters I'm working on and try to refine that and try to just push it a bit further, because years ago I hated doing hands. It was like, oh no, the model could be like everything almost ready, and then the hands, it was just like this ball of clay, like, oh no, should I just leave it like that? And I hated doing hands, and I don't know why now I really enjoy it, and I really like it. And whenever I have the chance, like, okay, let's jump into the hand and try to do something really cool and see if I can give a bit of personality in the hands as well, and a bit of dynamism, if that's even a word, on those hands. And yeah, so now every time I have the chance, I just jump into the hands of the character and try to refine those.
So this leads to a good question on Twitter from Carol. What tool did you use to copy your fingers there?
I'll show you really quick.
This is the quiet this stage has ever been right now. Like everyone's like, shh, pin drop. Your old barber? Nice. In Toronto, T.O.
All right, what I tend to do is just I bring whatever geometry, like in this case a cylinder.
Perfect. Enough said, done.
And then I'll put it wherever I want it, right? In this case, let's just try something crazy. And then I can just duplicate it and place it somewhere else. Just hitting duplicate here in the subtool, and I can just place it. That's it, really. So once I'm happy with it, I'll just merge down, and then we have it, 3 fingers together. And then if I want to really stick it to the body, I'll go into put this here and just merge it down with the body. Merge down. And then that's all one single subtool. So now I could, if I wanted to sculpt, because these are like different elements, they are not welded together. If I wanted, I can just go in and dynamesh this. So everything becomes one single surface, and I can just go there and sculpt.
Jason Hunkin on Twitter was asking, do you have a YouTube channel or something with your personal work of time lapses for the public to watch?
I do have a blog and a YouTube channel as well, where I post these sort of videos. I'll type it in here, metamesh.blogspot.co.uk. And my YouTube channel is metamesh, so you should be able to just look for me.
And his ZBrush central name is also MetaMesh as well.
Also MetaMesh, yes.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to show you quickly another character that I did, and where detail was more important in this case. This one here. All right, so that's the final asset that you see rendered. I used the base mesh here and displacement maps. What's that? And that's the final thing rendered. There's quite a lot of detail going on there, and it was a pain in the ass to do, if you excuse my expression. It was a lot of patience involving, and then I just went there, and basically I didn't use any specific alphas, just mainly by hand, just modeling these wrinkles and these patterns, and it was quite time consuming. And then, yeah, I just rendered it in V-Ray. I created some texture maps, and I rendered it in V-Ray. And what is that? Yeah, although the colors look a bit off, but yeah, that was the final thing. I think that's the render straight from the image straight from the render. There's no comp or nothing in this case. I think I may have the last one on my blog here. I'll show you. Where there's a bit of depth of field and this sort of stuff. But yeah, that was a model in ZBrush and then just render in V-Ray. Super quickly, I want to show you how the detail is not so important in an image. I have this guy here, right? So there is 2 faces. One is with expression, the other one is the neutral sort of face. Okay, so the one on the left, one could say that is the default sort of expression, right? This one here looks like it's angry or it's annoyed or whatever. What I have here as well is just a filter. Let's see if I can just click on there. Yeah. Why is not? okay, you know what, let's disable the filter and see just the detail. This is what the details are. If you look closer in the image, the details are telling you that this face here is the neutral face, but this one here is the one that is annoyed. But if you really blur those things, let's just take the original image here, and if I just go here and blur it, look, it's like magic. Look at how quick they change faces. The detail is not so important on the final thing, right? What you see is this. So that's why I'm not super obsessed with detail unless it's for the production model, but whenever I'm just working, I try to focus on main shapes and, main shapes, right? So, like in this case, there's not a lot of detail going on. I don't care. I just want the shapes to be what I want. I just want a face that is appealing or character that is appealing. Details, forget about that. You will have time to spend, you know, just cutting geometry and cutting lines like this guy here. But what is important is just the structure of your character. I'm not sure we're running out of time, I think. Or?
You got maybe a minute.
Okay, if you guys have any questions.
Any last minute question here on the floor from Alex? I'm trying to get my iPad up and see if there's any Twitter one. What inspired that piece, Louis is asking?
Well, that is a funny story. I saw this guy on, I think it was 3DSK or something like that. It's this webpage where you have tons of people. And I saw the picture of this guy, and I thought, oh, wow, he's got really interesting face. Let's see if I can do it in 3D and try to make a proper render. So I started doing it, and as I was doing it, I started thinking, maybe I should just finalize it and do something different, not just like that guy, but try to put it into a context. So I started just thinking, and at the end I came up with this idea that the guy is sick, and well, there was a whole story behind it. And then someone saw it, some of my friends, when I was showing it around just to get some feedback, and one of the guys told me, oh man, that's so cool, I get what you're doing there. I said, what am I doing there? And he was like, yeah, that's a portrait of Picasso, and he's sick, right? I'm like, what? Said, yeah, it's like a metaphor for the art nowadays, right? It's like decadent, and I was like, what? And he was like, that's not Picasso? And I was, yeah, man, you got it. Totally nailed it. That's it. You know, all right, thank you. So yeah, that was a funny story. But apart from that, you know, it's just like I didn't have any sort of motivation to do it. Like I'm gonna do the best. No, I saw the guy. I thought he had an interesting face, and I went there. And once I was going through it, I thought maybe I should just finish it and do something else, not just have a couple of renders here. That's one of the whip renders I was doing, testing the skin shade and things like that. That's another version. I thought, that could be interesting. But maybe it was a bit too much taking the piece, put him in smoking when he's dying. So I was like, oh, you know what, let's. So yeah, I did a lot of different versions as well.
So we'll take one final question right here, Alex,
Sure.
and then we'll get you off the stage.
How long would you typically take to sculpt, not the rendering, not the textures, but just to sculpt that? How long did it take?
The sculpting, it doesn't take as long as you might think it takes. What it takes a lot of time is the detailing on the skin. That took me forever, just because I didn't have any custom brushes or anything like that. So I went there and I was like, and then I was generating displacement maps and rendering, and then I could see, maybe it doesn't look good enough. What I'm carving is not deep enough, so I should go back to the ZBrush and keep refining it and rendering. So it was a slow process at the end, because I couldn't get it as I wanted. So yeah, it was a lot of back and forth between rendering and going back to the model. But the texturing was super quick to do, and the first pass on the model was, well, fairly quick to do, maybe like a couple of days work. But what it took time, it was just the rendering and lighting and testing. I did lots of tests, lots of different lighting setups, a lot of shading and testing again, and that took forever. But the actual model, not so much. It was fairly quick.
Fabulous. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Huguet.
Thank you.